The first time Sarah noticed the black veins threading beneath her daughter's skin, she thought it was a trick of the light. Emma sat at the breakfast table, sunbeams streaming through the kitchen window, and for just a moment her pale arms seemed to carry dark rivers beneath the surface, like ink spreading through milk. "Emma, honey, wash your hands again," Sarah said, her voice catching slightly. 8-year-old Emma looked down at her spotless palms, confusion flickering across her face. "But Mama, I already washed them 3 times. Sarah blinked, and the dark veins were gone. Just her imagination, surely. The stress of the move, the new job at the Blackwater Elementary School, the whispered warnings from the realtor about the old mining town, it was all getting to her. But as Emma lifted her cereal spoon, Sarah saw it again. The darkness wasn't on her skin, it was in it. 3 weeks earlier. The moving truck had barely disappeared down the winding mountain road when Emma asked about the mine. Sarah should have expected it. The rusted head frame towered over their new home like a skeletal finger pointing accusingly at the sky. The Blackwater mine had been closed for 30 years, but its presence dominated the valley like a sleeping giant. "Can we explore it, Mama?" Emma had asked, pressing her nose against the window of their rental house. "Absolutely not," Sarah replied, but she was already studying the chain-link fence surrounding the property. The metal was corroded, gaps torn in the fencing where local teenagers had obviously found ways inside. "It's dangerous. Old mines have poisonous gases, unstable tunnels." Emma's face fell. "But Tommy Brennan says there are treasures down there. Old mining equipment and—" "Tommy Brennan can tell his mother I'd like to have a word with her about letting her son near that death trap." Sarah had meant it. The next day at Blackwater Elementary, she'd cornered Linda Brennan in the teacher's lounge. "Oh, Sarah, you're new here," Linda had said, stirring her coffee nervously. "You don't understand. The children, they're drawn to that place. Have been for decades. We tried blocking all the entrances years ago, but they always find a way in. Then maybe the parents should be more vigilant." "My Tommy's a good boy." Linda's voice turned defensive. "And he's not the only one. Sarah, honey, there are things about this town you don't know yet. The mine, it's not just dangerous because of cave-ins or gas. There are other reasons we tell the children to stay away." Linda's hand trembled as she set down her mug. Sarah noticed for the first time how pale the other woman was, how dark the circles under her eyes appeared. "What kind of reasons?" Linda glanced around the empty lounge, then leaned closer. "The children who go down there, they change. It starts with their skin. They get this grayish tint that never goes away, no matter how much they scrub. Then they start talking about seeing things. Shadow people, they call them." Sarah forced a laugh. "Linda, that sounds like ghost stories?" Linda's eyes were deadly serious. "Sarah, I've been teaching here for 23 years. I've seen it happen to dozens of children. The doctors say it's some kind of mineral poisoning from the coal dust, but the medical tests always come back normal. And the things these children describe, they're too consistent, too detailed to be imagination." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. "What kinds of things?" "Dark figures that move when you're not looking directly at them. Whispers in empty hallways. And the worst part—" Linda's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "The children who see them most clearly are the ones who disappear." Present day. Sarah stared at her daughter across the breakfast table, Linda's words echoing in her memory. The black veins beneath Emma's skin pulsed gently, like a slow heartbeat made visible. "Emma," Sarah said carefully, "have you been playing near the old mine?" Emma's spoon clattered into her cereal bowl. Her eyes, had they always been quite so pale, darted toward the window. "No, Mama. You told me not to. I know what I told you. But sometimes children don't listen, and I haven't been to the mine." Emma's voice was flat, emotionless. "But the mine has been to me." Sarah's blood turned to ice water in her veins. "What did you say?" Emma blinked, and suddenly she was just a normal 8-year-old again, looking confused. "I said I haven't been to the mine, Mama. Why are you looking at me like that?" Sarah forced herself to breathe. Never mind, sweetie. Finish your breakfast. We need to get you to school." But as they walked to the car, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Emma moved differently. Her steps were too quiet, and she kept glancing over her shoulder as if someone was following them. "Mama," Emma said as Sarah started the engine, "do you see them too?" "See what, honey?" Emma pointed toward the house. "The shadow people. They're standing on our porch." Sarah whipped her head around. The porch was empty. "Emma, there's no one there." "Not no one," Emma corrected. "Nothing. That's different." At Blackwater Elementary, Sarah tried to focus on her lesson plans, but her mind kept wandering to Emma's strange behavior. During her lunch break, she found herself in the school library, pulling dusty books about the local mining history. The Blackwater mine had operated from 1952 to 1995, employing most of the town's adult population. The coal seam ran deep, nearly 1,000 feet down, and the tunnels stretched for miles beneath the valley. The mine had been profitable until a series of accidents in the early 90s forced its closure. Sarah flipped through newspaper clippings, her stomach sinking with each headline. 7 miners trapped in Blackwater collapse. Rescue efforts continue as families wait. Hope fading for Blackwater 7. Bodies never recovered from mine disaster. The final article was dated just 3 months before the mine's permanent closure. 7 men had been working the deepest level when a support beam failed, sealing them in a side tunnel. Despite weeks of rescue efforts, their bodies were never found. The families had begged the mining company to continue searching, but eventually the operation was deemed too dangerous and expensive to continue. Sarah was about to close the book when she noticed a smaller article tucked in the corner of the page. "Local children report visitors following mine tragedy." Several Blackwater children have reported seeing dark men around town since the mining accident 3 weeks ago. Child psychologist Dr. Rebecca Martinez suggests the children may be processing the trauma of losing community members. Children often externalize grief in the form of imaginary figures, Martinez explained. However, some parents report their children have provided disturbingly specific details about the appearance and behavior of these figures. The article cut off there, but Sarah's hands were shaking as she closed the book. 7 miners had died in 1995. Emma had mentioned shadow people. And Linda Brennan had said children in this town had been seeing dark figures for decades. Sarah drove home early, her mind racing. She found Emma in her bedroom, sitting on the floor with her back to the door. She appeared to be having a conversation with someone, but the room was empty. "Emma? Who are you talking to?" Emma turned around, and Sarah gasped. The black veins beneath her daughter's skin were more prominent now, creating intricate patterns across her face and arms like some terrible tattoo. Her eyes had taken on a grayish cast, as if someone had mixed ash with the blue irises. "I'm talking to Mr. Henderson," Emma said matter-of-factly. "He's very sad. He wants to go home, but he can't remember the way." Sarah's throat closed. Robert Henderson had been one of the 7 miners who died in 1995. She'd seen his name in the newspaper article. "Emma, there's no one here." "He's right behind you, Mama." Emma's voice was distant, dreamy. "They all are. They followed me home from the mine." "Emma, you promised me you hadn't been to the mine." "I haven't." Emma tilted her head, listening to something Sarah couldn't hear. "But I think maybe the mine came to me." Sarah spun around. The bedroom was empty, but she could swear she felt something brush against her shoulder, cold air that moved with purpose. "Emma, we're leaving." Right now. Pack a bag. We can't leave, Mama. Emma's voice was sad but certain. They need our help. And besides... She held up her small hands, palm up. The black veins were spreading, creating delicate patterns that looked almost like wings. I think it's too late. That night, Sarah didn't sleep. She sat in the living room with every light on, watching Emma's bedroom door. Her daughter had gone to bed without protest, which was unusual. Emma typically fought bedtime with the determination of a seasoned negotiator. Around midnight, Sarah heard voices. At first, she thought it might be the television, but she hadn't turned it on. Then she wondered if neighbors were talking outside, but their rental house sat alone at the end of a dead-end street. The voices were coming from Emma's room. Sarah crept down the hallway, her bare feet silent on the cold hardwood. The voices grew clearer as she approached, low, masculine tones mixed with Emma's higher pitch. Sarah pressed her ear to the door. "Didn't mean to scare her," a man was saying. His voice had a strange quality, as if he were speaking through water. "She's my mama," Emma replied. "She's supposed to take care of me." "We know about taking care of family," another voice said. "We've been taking care of our families for a long time. But it's hard when you can't touch them, can't let them know you're still here." "Is that why you need me?" Emma asked. "You can see us," the first voice said. "Really see us. Most children lose the ability as they get older, but you're different. The coal dust in your blood, it's like a bridge. It connects you to us, to the dark places where we live now." Sarah's hands flew to her mouth to stifle a scream. She slowly turned the doorknob, easing the door open just a crack. Emma sat in the center of her bed, legs crossed, looking perfectly normal except for the black veins that now covered most of her visible skin. Around her, the room seemed darker than it should be, as if shadows had taken on physical weight. Sarah could make out vague shapes, tall figures standing around Emma's bed like a circle of guardians. "My mama's listening," Emma said without looking toward the door. One of the shadows turned, and Sarah caught a glimpse of what might have been a face. Hollow cheeks, eyes like empty sockets, skin with the grayish pallor of someone who had been underground too long. "Mrs. Mitchell," the shadow said, and its voice was definitely coming from that terrible, almost face. "You're afraid." Sarah pushed the door open fully, flooding the room with hallway light. The shadows didn't disappear. They simply became more defined, more obviously present. "Who are you?" she whispered. "We're the Blackwater 7, the shadow replied. "We've been waiting a long time to come home." The mine. The next morning, Emma refused to get out of bed. The black veins had spread overnight, creating patterns across her entire body that looked like a map of underground tunnels. Her skin had taken on a grayish tint that no amount of scrubbing could remove. "The school nurse is going to ask questions," Sarah said, helping Emma dress in long sleeves and pants despite the warm weather. "I'm not going to school today," Emma replied. "They want to show me something." "Emma, we've talked about this." "There is no they." Emma looked at her mother with eyes that seemed far too old for her face. "Mama, you saw them last night. You heard them talking. Why are you pretending they're not real?" Sarah sat heavily on the edge of Emma's bed. Her daughter was right. She had seen them, heard them. But accepting that reality meant accepting that something impossible was happening to her child. "What do they want?" Sarah asked quietly. "They want to go home," Emma said. "They've been trapped in the dark for so long, they forgot how to find their way back. But I can help them. I can be their light." "Emma, no. Whatever they're asking you to do." "They're not asking, Mama. They're dying. Or, they would be dying if they weren't already dead. They need me to help them cross over, to find peace." Sarah's phone rang, startling them both. Linda Brennan's name appeared on the screen. "Sarah." Linda's voice was frantic. Is Emma with you? She's right here. Why, thank God. Sarah, you need to listen to me very carefully. Other children are missing. 3 of them disappeared last night, just vanished from their beds. Their parents found their bedroom windows open and coal dust scattered on the floor. Sarah's blood went cold. Coal dust. Sarah, I think they went to the mine. And I think something is calling them there. Sarah looked at Emma, who was staring out the window with an expression of intense concentration. They're calling me too, Emma whispered. Sarah made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Instead of packing up and fleeing Blackwater, instead of taking Emma to the nearest hospital, she decided to go to the mine. If these spirits are trapped there, maybe I can help them find peace, she told Linda over the phone. Sarah, no. You don't understand. The children who go to the mine come back changed. I know. But Emma is already changing. Maybe if I can help them move on, she can return to normal. The mine entrance was exactly as ominous as Sarah had expected. The rusted headframe creaked in the wind like a gallows, and the main shaft opening yawned like a mouth leading directly to hell. The chain-link fence had been cut in numerous places, creating easy access for anyone foolish enough to venture inside. Emma walked beside Sarah without fear, her small hand cold in her mother's grip. The black veins beneath her skin pulsed rhythmically, and Sarah realized they seemed to pulse in sync with something, a heartbeat, perhaps, or the rhythm of machinery deep underground. "They're down there," Emma said, pointing into the darkness of the main shaft. "The other children, too. They're all together now." Sarah pulled out the heavy-duty flashlight she'd brought, its beam barely penetrating the oppressive darkness of the mine entrance. The air smelled of sulfur and something else, something organic and wrong, like meat left too long in a warm place. "Emma, I want you to stay close to me. No matter what we see down there, don't let go of my hand." Emma nodded, but her attention was focused on the shadows that seemed to be moving independently of Sarah's flashlight beam. They descended. The main shaft led to a maze of tunnels that branched in every direction. Sarah had brought a ball of string to mark their path, a precaution that now seemed laughably inadequate. The mine was vast, an underground city carved from coal and stone. As they walked deeper, the temperature dropped noticeably. Their breath began to mist in the cold air, and Sarah noticed that Emma no longer seemed to be breathing at all. "Emma!" Her daughter turned, and in the flashlight beam, Sarah saw that Emma's eyes had turned completely black, not just the irises, but the whites as well. When Emma smiled, her teeth appeared to be outlined in coal dust. "We're almost there, Mama. The deep chamber." The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber that Sarah's flashlight couldn't fully illuminate. The space felt huge, cathedral-like, with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness above them. But what made Sarah's breath catch in her throat were the children. They stood in a circle in the center of the chamber, holding hands. Sarah counted 7 of them, all around Emma's age. Their skin had the same grayish pallor, the same black veins mapping across their small bodies. But unlike Emma, these children appeared to be completely unconscious, standing upright with their eyes closed, swaying slightly as if moved by an unfelt breeze. "Tommy." Sarah recognized Tommy Brennan among the children. "Tommy, can you hear me?" The boy didn't respond. None of the children did. "They're sleeping," Emma explained, pulling her hand free from Sarah's grip. "The shadow men are helping them sleep so they won't be afraid." Sarah spun her flashlight beam around the chamber, and what she saw made her scream. The shadows weren't shadows at all. 7 figures stood around the circle of children, tall, gaunt men in mining clothes that hung in tatters from their skeletal frames. Their skin was the color of wet coal, and their eyes were empty sockets that seemed to drink in Sarah's flashlight beam. One of them still wore a mining helmet with a dead headlamp, the plastic cracked and yellow with age. "Mrs. Mitchell," the figure with the helmet said, his voice echoing strangely in the vast chamber. Thank you for bringing Emma to us." "Let the children go," Sarah demanded, though her voice came out as barely a whisper. "We can't do that," another figure said. Sarah recognized the voice from Emma's bedroom, the one who had identified himself as part of the Blackwater 7. "They're our anchors now, our connection to the world above. I don't understand." The helmeted figure stepped closer, and Sarah could see that his mining clothes were fused to his body in places, as if the heat and pressure of the mine collapse had melted fabric and flesh together. "We've been trapped here for 30 years, he explained. "Unable to leave, unable to die properly. The mine collapse didn't just bury our bodies, it trapped our souls. We've been trying to find a way back to our families, to let them know we're still here." "But you're dead," Sarah said. "Death isn't always the end," the figure replied. "Sometimes it's just a different kind of existence. We discovered that children can see us more easily than adults. Their minds are more open, less fixed in their understanding of what's possible. But most children lose the ability as they grow older." Emma stepped forward, taking her place in the circle with the other children. As soon as she joined hands with them, all 7 children opened their eyes in unison. Their eyes were completely black, like Emma's. "Unless," the figure continued, "we give them a permanent connection to our world. The coal dust in their bloodstream, it's not just dust. It's part of us, part of our essence. It binds them to this place, to us." Sarah lunged forward to grab Emma, but her hand passed through her daughter as if she were made of smoke. "Emma." "I'm okay, Mama." Emma's voice seemed to come from very far away. "I can see everything now. The whole mine, all the tunnels, all the places where they've been hiding. And I can see the way out." The 7 dead miners stepped closer to the circle of children. "We need them to guide us," the helmeted figure said. "They can see the path between worlds, the living world and the place where we've been trapped. With their help, we can finally cross over." "And what happens to the children?" Sarah demanded. The figure was quiet for a long moment. "They become the new guardians of this place, the bridge between worlds. They won't age, won't grow old, won't die. They'll exist here forever, keeping the passage open for other lost souls." Sarah screamed and rushed the circle again, but again her hands passed through the children as if they were ghosts. "The transformation is almost complete," another miner said. "Soon they'll be more spirit than flesh. But don't worry, they won't be alone. Other children will join them. There are always children who are drawn to dark places, who can see what others cannot." Emma turned her black eyes toward her mother. "It doesn't hurt, Mama. It's actually beautiful. I can see so much now. All the secrets hidden in the dark. The choice. There is one way to save them," the helmeted figure said suddenly. Sarah spun toward him. "What?" "A willing exchange. An adult soul for the children. Someone who chooses to take their place as guardian of the threshold." Sarah's heart hammered in her chest. "You mean you could take their place? Your life force, your soul, binding you to this place forever. In exchange, we would release the children and help them return to normal." Sarah looked at Emma, at the 6 other children standing in their terrible circle. Tommy Brennan couldn't be more than 9 years old. None of them deserved this fate. "If I agree, you'll let all the children go? All of them will return to normal. The coal dust will leave their systems. The black veins will fade. They'll remember this as a strange dream, nothing more." Sarah took a shaky breath. "And I'll be trapped here forever. You'll become the guardian of the threshold. Other lost souls will find their way here, and you'll help them cross over to whatever comes next. It's not a pleasant existence, but it serves a purpose." Sarah closed her eyes, thinking of Emma's laugh, her bright smile, her endless questions about the world. She thought of Tommy Brennan and the other children. Innocent kids who had simply been drawn to explore a dangerous place. "Mama, no," Emma said, somehow sensing what Sarah was considering. "I can handle this. I'm not afraid." But Sarah was already walking toward the circle. As she approached, she could feel a strange pull, as if the mine itself was drawing her deeper into its influence. The air grew colder, and she could taste coal dust on her tongue. "I accept," she said. The moment the words left her lips, the chamber filled with a sound like rushing wind. The dead miners began to glow with a pale, phosphorescent light. The children in the circle suddenly collapsed, their bodies becoming solid and warm and human again. Sarah felt something being drawn out of her, something essential and irreplaceable. Her vision began to dim at the edges, and she could feel herself becoming lighter, less substantial. "Mama!" Emma scrambled to her feet and ran toward Sarah, but her small arms passed right through her mother's fading form. "Take care of yourself, baby," Sarah whispered, her voice already sounding distant and hollow. "Be good for whoever takes care of you now." The dead miners were dissolving into points of light that drifted upward and disappeared. With their departure, Sarah felt herself settling into the chamber like sediment sinking to the bottom of a dark pool. She was becoming part of the mine now, part of its ancient stones and endless tunnels. Emma and the other children fled the chamber, their footsteps echoing in the tunnels as they ran toward daylight. Sarah tried to follow, but she found she could not leave the deep chamber. She was bound to this place now, just as the miners had been bound. But unlike the miners, she was not angry or desperate. She had chosen this fate willingly, and there was a strange peace in that choice. Epilogue. 6 months later. Emma lived with Linda Brennan now. The coal dust had faded from her system within days of leaving the mine, and the black veins had disappeared completely. She remembered very little of her time underground, just fragments of dreams about dark tunnels and kind men who were sad about being away from their families. The mine entrance had been properly sealed by the state, with concrete barriers and warning signs. No more children would be able to find their way inside. But sometimes, late at night, Emma would wake up and go to her bedroom window. She would look out toward the old head frame, barely visible in the moonlight, and she would whisper, "Good night, Mama." And deep underground, in a chamber that no living person would ever see again, Sarah would whisper back, "Good night, baby. Sweet dreams." The other children in town slept peacefully now, no longer troubled by shadow people or dark figures in their peripheral vision. Tommy Brennan had returned to being a normal 9-year-old boy who was far more interested in video games than dangerous places. But Emma was different. She still saw things others couldn't see, not the angry, trapped spirits that had haunted Blackwater, but gentler souls. Lost people who needed help finding their way to whatever came next. When she saw them, she would quietly slip away from Linda's watchful care and walk to the edge of town, where she would sit on an old stone wall and talk to them. "My mama teaches people how to cross over," she would tell them. "If you walk toward the old mine and call her name, she'll help you find peace." Emma couldn't enter the mine herself. Something prevented her from getting too close to the sealed entrance. But she could see the gentle spirits walking in that direction, and she could see the soft glow that would appear around the headframe when her mother helped another soul find its way home. Linda Brennan never asked Emma about these nighttime walks. She had lived in Blackwater long enough to know that some children were simply born with the ability to see between worlds. As long as Emma was safe, as long as she wasn't being drawn back toward the darkness that had once threatened to consume her, Linda was content to let her adopted daughter carry out whatever strange purpose she had found. Emma was growing up now, but she never forgot her mother's sacrifice. And Sarah, in her eternal guardianship of the threshold between worlds, never stopped watching over her daughter, protecting her from the kind of desperate, hungry spirits that had once threatened all the children of Blackwater. The mine had become something different now. Not a trap for lost souls, but a way station, a place where the dead could find guidance and the living could remain safely in the light. And in the deepest chamber, where coal dust still glittered in the air like stars, Sarah Mitchell continued her vigil, helping lost spirits find their way home while keeping the darkness from reaching up toward the world above. Sometimes she wondered if she had made the right choice. But then she would think of Emma's laugh, imagine her daughter growing up safe and loved, and Sarah would know that some sacrifices were worth making. After all, what was a mother's love but the willingness to step into the dark so that her child could remain in the light? The children of Blackwater slept soundly now, their dreams free of shadow people and coal dust angels. And that, Sarah thought, was exactly as it should be. In the depths of the mine, surrounded by stone and silence, she waited for the next lost soul who would need her help finding the way home.